An error occurred.
Real estate agent, are you looking to acquire clients consistently so you can grow your business and your income to live a great lifestyle? This is Dave Finale and the RE Skill Builder Podcast.
Hello, everybody. Here we are. It's Friday, and it's time for the Real Estate Talk TGIF broadcast. And here we are today. We have a great guest today. We are with Christine Beckwith, who is Christine, tell them who you are. I mean, you're with 2020 Vision for coaching and consulting, but you're also one of the top mortgage professionals in the country. So, tell them a little bit about you. But first, we've got to go through the normal thing we always do, which is this is Real Estate Talk TGIF episode 144. Yep, that's 141 weeks in a row with great guests, great people. Now we got another great. But Christine, there's one question before you start. What does TGIF stand for? Do you know?
Yes, thank God it's Friday.
Well, yeah, a lot of people think that, but no, that's not it. Really, it's thank God it's finale. And here we are. It's TGIF. It's TGIF episode 144. Christine, thank you so much for being on today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's quite an honor. I've heard your podcast before. You have a wonderful following. And man, I'm amongst some incredible people that you've had as guests on here. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Yeah, I'm the president and founder of 2020 Vision for Success Coaching. I am a 33-year mortgage industry veteran. I started in college. I know if you do the math, that makes you think I'm 5 or 6 years. I started when I was 5 or 6 years old. I'd love for you to think that's true. But the truth is, I started as an understudy for a female originator going to college for sports medicine and nutrition, and just followed that path. And that path led me through becoming a mortgage originator. And then in my mid-20s, I became a branch manager after about 5 or 6 years of origination, and then a district manager. So I moved from having 10 loan officers to 125. Then I moved up to regional where I had 250. And then I became the senior vice president of sales, overseeing a 900 loan originator, 210 branch manager platform for several years. That led to a culmination of a shutting down of a company because of the mortgage implosion. And I would go on to grab 50 people from that shop to open a boutique shop in Boston, Massachusetts. And I would get a call again from a great entrepreneur from Wall Street, Joe Penabianco, who at the time was building a mortgage company, kind of doing the Warren Buffett theory. He was building during the decline and doing really good at grabbing market share. And he came over and the first act we did together after we agreed that we had similar cultures and interest was to help me broker the sale of the company I was at. We joined forces. We would later, in a few years, become Annie Mac Home Mortgage. And I took that ride for another 12 years that led all the way to 2018 and built that company. And that pretty much brings you current.
So talk to us about, I mean, you've done a lot of things in the industry, and you've been that executive, that female executive, if I can talk about that, and talk about how that was for you and how you started in the business and what that meant as time went on.
Mm-hmm. Well, first I'll just, being completely authentic, tell you that I never really stopped and assessed the feeling of being a minority almost the entire 30 years. I will tell you that I was very fortunate. I had wonderful men that mentored me. I had men that promoted me. I obviously worked amongst men, and 98.5% of the people that worked for me were men. And so I'll start there and tell you, I had a wonderful career. I have no complaints. That being said, as you age, and I think this becomes prevalent as a woman, you become more comfortable talking about things like this. I think, talking about gender for the years that I grew up in that minority, it was just not something people talked about. The men didn't talk about it. The women didn't talk about it. And so in a weird way, we didn't think about it. Now, I'm also a tomboy. So I grew up riding I grew up riding dirt bikes. I was more comfortable around guys, I guess. Growing up, I found myself, I have more male best friends than I do female. That may be different today now that I'm in the environment I'm in. And so I just always felt really, really comfortable. Towards the end of my 30 years in the mortgage industry and the movement began, I would get asked more and more and more to speak on this topic. And it pushed me out of my comfort zone and into a place where I had to decide if I was going to, remain silent, which in and of itself, felt like an act of defiance on the topic. And so I, really understood the need for me to appreciate that other women coming up behind me wanted to know the path that I had taken. And so I became first, really, the word liberated comes to mind in my own voice as a woman, right. Through the writing of my first book, Wise Eyes. My editor, who accepted my completed book, would hand it back to me before publication and say, this is missing one profound chapter. And that is, how did it feel to be a minority? So, not to make this a long-winded answer, but to back to your question, I would tell you that I probably had more fears in recollection that I realized once I got comfortable thinking about it. There were moments I can see now where I realized, some of the stats are staggering. When I first became an originator, I joined a team of 21 that had one other older female who was not nice to me, by the way. And so there's that. And that's my message to women today. Like, we can't mean girl each other, guys. We've got to put our hands out and help each other. That's a problem within our own gender banks, number one. But number two, I went from there to a group of originators that were 200 strong. And I was one of 3 women. And then later, when I would become the senior vice president over that 1,200 body sales force for H&R Block mortgage division, there was only 2 branch managers out of 210. And there were something like 26 women out of 900 originators. So It was a time when sales positions for women were extremely stark. And of course, that would change over time. And so when I became an executive, the number was 2% because I had articles written about me in New York. And I forget all the publications, but when I became an SVP, it was big news that, I was with Jeff Yabuki, who was the CFO of H&R Block. Mark Ernst was the CEO. And women just didn't hold those positions. So
you're talking about H&R Block and how you came, that started everything. And then you actually made the decision to shut down that part of H&R Block. Talking about the difficulties involved with that kind of a thing and how you put yourself out of a job, more or less, right?
Yeah. Some of the first acts in the boardroom for me, timing wise, came to consolidation. In fact, my very first executive boardroom meeting with the then CEO, of the mortgage division was about consolidation. And we were in a place where the mortgage industry was declining. And so difficult decisions had to be made. And I just remember thinking, oh my God, it took me all these years to climb to the top of this career mountain. And now I'm here and this is the act. I was in the boardroom again when decisions were made. H&R Block is a publicly traded Fortune 500 company. And obviously shareholder price is always the prime, focus. And, with a failing, possibly futuristic failing division, it compromised or was in a position to compromise the overall share price. So in an act of self-preservation to the main body of the company, being an international accounting firm and one of the biggest in the world, there was really no other decisions. All arrows pointed towards, a conservative act of just closing that division down. And so that's what happened. And I spent my last 6 months traveling throughout the country with HR people, helping give the speech, thanking people, shaking hands, helping build resumes, what we call offboarding. And just really, it was hard. It was a hard time. I had a lot of hostility pointed at me.
I'm sure you did.
Because, there were new people that had just joined H&R Block who made a decision to join. And like anything that happens that's sudden, you make a decision to pick this company and now somebody's telling you that, we're closing. They don't realize they came in the 11th hour of a long story And it's unfortunate. And when those things happen, you have to listen and you have to understand their position. And I tried very hard to do that and empathize and sympathize, but be the voice that they could, bang against.
Right.
And I'll just say, I didn't know at the time what lesson I was learning. I always kind of look in the sky and say, what are you teaching me right now? And I will say now, and I've written about it, that year will profoundly be one of the most contributive shaping years for me as a leader, because leadership is not about, a lot of people think leadership is about cheerleading, and it is, parts and pieces,
Right.
but it's strategic and it's about accountability. It's about creating the vision. It's about keeping the train on the tracks, picking up speed often, sometimes stopping and letting people off, and sometimes shutting the train down. And that last part, until I had to do it, didn't obviously feel good. But great leaders know how to do this well. And so now I have this part that helps me understand that, sometimes those things have to happen.
Yeah, I get that 100%. So you're with H&R Block, and now I've looked into a lot of things. You've written a number of books, right? And you've already mentioned one of them, Wise Eyes, See Your Way to Success. Talk to me about Wise Eyes, how you wrote it, why you wrote it, and what's the base and body of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So right after that culminated the end of H&R Block, I decided to rent a lake house for the summer and not go straight back to work. I felt like in my whole career, if there was ever a time for me to rest and reset, it was then. And so I gave myself the grace of a 90-day vacation. I had a baby at that time that was brand new. He had, carted around with me through pregnancy as a senior executive, and then his first months. And now I could dedicate some time to him. And I am not one to sit still. So within days of that vacation, I began to write. I've always known that writing is cathartic and that it helps us, offboard feelings. And I was also afraid to forget what made me successful, because there was a repeated path of success that over that decade with H&R Block. How did I get from an originator to an area manager, and then a district, and then a regional, and walk this path? And I thought, others may want to know what I think that path looks like, and what were the things that were obvious repeated tactics that allowed me to accelerate, have top sales, get the respect of my peers, so that I was the most logical person for the promotion. And then, what were the things that all people could do? So in my way, that was my sales success book. And it starts with a story of, me looking back into my childhood when I had doubts about myself in a small, grade school student council competition, and having a mentor step up and encourage me to do it, and then winning, and the shock and awe of that in my tender age of like 9 years old, where I start to realize that other people can effectively make you, more aware of your surroundings, that we have blind spots as people. We have voices in our heads that tell us stories that aren't always accurate. And that stuck with me as a young child. That person changed the shape of my life. That happened to be the principal of my grade school. I would later go on to, work hard to get to college on scholarship money. He would see me navigate all the way through high school. I took home the most scholarships from my high school that year, and I needed every dime to go to college. Right. But I would later establish a foundation and go back to the school and give away 20 some odd secondary education scholarships because of the journey that I had been on. So Wise Eyes became that book that kind of was like, how did I see my way to success through all these things and all this change and all this? And to my delight, it became a bestseller. The American Book Festival, which gives out awards every year from Los Angeles, named it the #1 book in 2018 in the category of sales. And it made way for me to realize that I could write. It took me 12 years to publish it. So I want you to know, I wrote it in 2006. And it didn't get published till 2018. And so I sat on it, and the book itself tells you this book took 12 years to come to life. It was written in 90 days, but I hadn't done enough living and enough experiencing yet. And there were more chapters of success that I needed to add to it. And so the birth of Wise Eyes really was more poignant in 2018 than ever in my life. And then 3 more books poured out of me in the next year to get me where we are now.
So now you're an author, you're, executive sales leader in over 30 years. And then you come into, okay, so let me help others. So you went from doing all that work. You went to, you wrote, you put people out of jobs, put them in jobs, help them get back into work. And then you write the book, and then you decide to coach. Talk to me about, that inspiration about coaching and stuff, because that's really cool. It's what I do. So, there's an inspiration to it. Was there, as you get into that, I'll ask you some other questions, but just go through that. Talk about how you got into that.
Okay. Yeah, sure. I was really lucky to have this wonderful moral upbringing from my dad, where really good advice. My dad's a man of few words. Anyone that knows him will tell you when he speaks, everybody listens, but he doesn't talk a lot. Like, he's one of those guys that, and I honestly, I know everybody loves their fathers and puts them on pedestals, but I can't begin to tell you like the profoundness of my father's lessons. Very influential, always close to him, even as a little girl. I always wanted to be where my dad was. And he sent me off in life. I mean, this is a man that had me as a teenager, stuck with my mom, is with her to today. So you can know the moral fiber of this guy. He's only 17 years older than me. And so I will tell you that the fact that he is an honorable man, and the type of life that he's led has been a prime example, bringing us to church. We always sat for dinner, and he just really taught us foundational things. And so when I went into business, there were many intersections that I sought my father's advice. And he told me when I went to school, which was so scary for them. They were so young when I left for college. They were so scared for me. And I had no money. They had no money to give me. And I was going on scholarships, and I had like 2 boxes of stuff, and I was catching a ride to college in a car, in another state. And they didn't even go with me. There was no campus tour and all this stuff that you see today. It was just goodbye at the doorstep of our home, and off I went. And I've never gone home from that day. I've never moved back home. In fact, I'm getting ready to move back home in the next 2 years for the first time. And so it's, a full circle. I will say with coaching, what sparked that to me is my father said to me, it doesn't matter what you do in life or how you do it or what you search for your dreams. You need to remember that all things are going to come and be established from your ability to drive from an important place with people. And so people have to be your paramount concern. If you, and he's a very religious man, make people your number one thing and your number one purpose, then, God will provide and people will provide. And at the time when he said it, it was like, all right, Dad, okay. I was young and it just sounded hokey. But time and time again over the 30 years, I would always say, what would my dad say in this scenario? Sometimes I would call him and I would ask him for advice. Other times I would obviously just, align myself with what I thought he would say. And so I just always drove from that place. So over 30 years, even though I amassed, I would say fame and fortune within the mortgage industry, I was still not as fulfilled as I thought I could be. I had some pockets of, unhappiness, and I just thought, why aren't I feeling fulfilled? And when I really looked, and I started to get coaching myself, and I started getting counseling myself in the last decade of those 3 decades, I began to learn that what set my soul on fire was truly the teaching. Like, I was born to be a teacher. I think that's what my purpose is. And so I did something a lot of people don't do. I left the helm of my executive position, and I left, obviously, big money to start a company from scratch, with 0 income. I had amassed some capital, obviously, over the years, and I thought, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to dedicate the swan song of my career, which is what you're seeing me in now, to giving to others, and that's what I'm doing.
So you're giving to others, but this is something you wanted to do for a long time, though. Isn't this something you wanted to do? When did the thought process first start? For me, just to get a little background is, I had my own brokerage for 21 years, and it was always, how can I give? How can I help the agents? How much more can I give?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it was, okay, so it's time for me to really give that 100%, which is one of the things that I did. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I just really knew that I loved doing that. I saw the reaction of the people that would be coached by me or mentored by me in my positions that I held in the industry. And I did see that I had a profound effect on people. I heard people, I saw people. There were a lot of people on my journey in 30 years that other people either, discredited, diminished,
Right.
and relegated often to, not worthy, based on a set of, I would tell you, facts that I felt had nothing to do with the person's actual worth. It would be like, this guy's not doing well in sales, so he's not worthy of this lesson or this time or this, whatever. And my attitude always was, this man, if he's suffering, this woman, if she's suffering, if they're doing bad, they need me more than anyone. So I almost had an opposite type of effect. Now, I know strategically, I teach this today, that we all know Jack Welch's winning book theory, which is that you focus on the top percentage. They're going to bring you 80%, the top 20 is going to bring you 80%. So theoretically, I'm not, I'm not void of understanding the psychology of salespeople, because I've obviously run great sales my whole career. However, I have saved more people that were relegated to not being, worthy of saving, because I had the ability to sit down with them and say, you have not yet found your highest and best. And so there's something blocking you, or there's something keeping you from doing that. And it could be a number of things, but let's talk what that is. And do you know, that I'm pulling for you, that I believe that you can do it? Do you believe you can do it? Because I believe you can do it. And going back to that wise eyes opening chapter, I had someone that told me when I didn't believe myself, that I told myself at 9 years old that I was too poor to run this student council campaign. I was not popular. I didn't have the best clothes. I wasn't the cutest little girl. I didn't have, what other girls had, and I felt inferior. And anyways, that has shown other people some incredible front row seats to some comeback stories that have been mind-blowing. And those people are my advocates. When you see people out there, and I think I have a lot of people that wave our banner, and I'm so grateful for that, but I think it comes from a genuine place where our belief system has changed their lives.
I think a belief system in a coach, in a mentor, is extremely important. With what I saw, and one of the reasons I do what I do now is because I want to help people. I know it sounds really, really like,
I know
it's what everybody says. I want to help people, but honestly, I think I coach more people that I don't reap financial benefits from than I do.
Right.
And my objective is always, you got an issue, give me a call. You got an issue, text me. You got to go to my calendar. I mean, I've got all set up just for that, right? And I believe, really, to be completely honest, is that I believe some of the coaching that we see out there today, and the coaching process or the coaching business, is kind of broken. This is my opinion, and I don't mean to put that on anybody else, but I think, and you had said, we talked earlier in the week, and you had said, there's some short-sightedness.
Yes.
Talk about that for me. Talk about what I just said and how that goes into.
Sure. So of course, to this moment, we've been talking about what drove me to leave a lucrative job to do coaching. I have to tell you that I would never build a business unless I built it on the same tactics that I teach. And we teach, a school of tactics for business management, and it realms from business planning to time management to marketing, many facets of marketing. And I share that because one of the number 2 class in our series is strategic marketing. I believed there was an opportunity in the banking industry for a coaching and consulting firm that would deliver far more than what I saw being available. And that is, again, not to put down my competitors who
100%.
are also my friends, and they have a servant's heart, as do I. I just felt like they were very limited systems. I felt like they focused mainly on production. And I felt, as humans, consulting, to me, a business is about the full spectrum. First of all, you have to have the fundamentals. So, we built a school for that. And I don't want this to sound like a promo of my company. I promise you I don't.
Please, it can be.
I know, but I just really want to tell you what I think the compartments of, or the departments of what full body consulting looks like. It has to have foundational schools. So in other words, like a pharmacy or a hospital, because every business has different ailments going on at different times.
Right.
They most of the time in the life of their business, though, are going to experience the symptoms. And there are common symptoms that start from the origin of your business through massive growth, through scaling, through futuristic problems you can't even see because you're trying to get it off the ground. And so we built a hospital school, if you will, on business fundamentals, sales skills, and tactics that we felt covered the full body of, say, a 0 to 5 year business. And so we have that built. And the reason we built it virtually is that we could have consumed all our hours in a day as a consulting firm, repeating ourselves to hundreds of people on the same tactics that are common. Instead, we're able to prescribe those remedies in a system they can go to and take stuff out, reading materials, a reading library, classes, and all that's going on over there. But we also understood that everybody's vision for success, pun intended, is different. And so we start from a place where every single human that comes here, whether they're an executive C-suite person or they are a brand new loan originator to our field, they build a business plan. And we put them through that in their first 2 weeks here during orientation. It is very complex. And then they sit with a coach that goes through that vision. That vision is then shared with the whole coaching firm. So imagine it being like a doctor's meeting on a Monday. Everybody's got patients. All of you work at this doctor's office. Maybe there's, in our case, 15 doctors. We have 15 executive coaches. And we sit and we go through the patient list. And this is a true story. Every Monday, a staff of 8 people sit and go through every client's stuff, where they're at, what they've attended, what they're working on, their progress. We have, concierge people assigned to make the scheduling of all the stuff they do easy, but we also have student ambassadors assigned to show them around what they don't know. It's a complete campus of professional development. There are classes going on that are optional during the week, kind of like the lecture hall at college, but they have foundational one-on-one. You want to put them with the right coach because depending on where they are in the development of their business, they may be working on the front end sales funnel, and certain coaches are proficient in that. They may be working on scaling, and we have coaches on that. But beyond the American banking industry, which my forte is in financial forensics and executive level coaching, meaning I'm the person that's going to look at the body of your business, create the pro forma with you, understand all the pieces of hitting those marks, assign the right accountability, get the right tools and things in place so that you're going to hit those marks. And I just have this incredible support staff of 40 people that are allowing us to give this medicine. And it includes counseling for depression. It includes counseling for divorce. It includes health and wellness coaching for people suffering illnesses. It goes beyond you're a banker because you're a human first. So, in the first place. And so this goes back to my dad. Build your businesses around the people and you will, get what you want. And so this business has been built around the idea that we are human beings running banks, brokerages, correspondent lending. And I have the wherewithal to either give you training or foundationally accelerate your production or help you scale or help you fix what is ailing. And you're going to tell me what that looks like. And we're going to walk you down that path of professional development. And so I'm really proud today of what we've built. It is scalable. It will continue to grow from where it is. We know we are far more affordable, by the way, than 90% of my competitors that are overcharging. I don't mind saying out loud because we are an enormous facility. And so everybody is contributing to those resources through the payment of their coaching. And that way it actually becomes wholesale priced almost, because everybody's money contributes to all these resources.
Right. So you talked about the whole background and everything going on with the business and the coaching. And one of the things that I've seen, and sometimes there's a common denominator, right, for helping people get over that hump. And one of the things that I look at in my coaching is I'm looking for that switch. I'm looking for that thing that's going to get this agent over it, right?
Yeah.
How does that look in your eyes? And is there a common denominator, or is it everybody completely different?
Mm-hmm. Well, we see a lot of people that need breakthroughs, that are stuck. We see a lot of people that, from an EQ, emotional intelligence standpoint, that stands to be a greater barrier than their ability to understand what their business needs tactfully, or what their business needs strategically. And so we start from a place where we look at where you want to go financially. We do ask EQ questions in the process of building your business plan. How are you feeling? Are you, are you working long hours? Are you exhausted? Are you working more in your business than you would like to be? Would you like to be working more on your business? Where do you see yourself in 3 years, 5 years? And of course, we reverse calculate a 12-month business plan from a financial perspective using accounting chunk down terms. But a lot of times, what's keeping professionals from advancing is psychological. And so it could be anything that lives in the realm of procrastination. It can be lethargy. I'm tired. I don't have the energy, which could be more health and wellness. It could be more something deeper rooted that's causing them this. So a lot of our coaches, it won't surprise you, specialize in both business and psychology. And so we have a number of coaches, and I'm not going to name them. I don't want to name just a couple when we have 15, but we have a few that specialize in breakthrough. It's called the knowing and doing scope. And they will work with professionals that, here is a commonality with coaching. They sign up like New Year's resolutions. They know they want to improve their businesses. They even know what's wrong. And so they don't need me to tell them that, but they need somebody that's going to hold them accountable. And accountability is an interesting thing, because let me tell you, one of the thickest skin things I've needed to do in going into this field is understand that when I prod somebody in a direction, there is a chance I'm going to get backhanded or slapped back. Right. And believe it or not, every single week, my staff and myself will have a number of people lash back at us during an accountability session that may be as little as an email check-in or something like that, because they're busy, they're hectic, and they don't like how it feels to be pushed out of their comfort zone. I say this because we are not one of those firms that is, drop and give me 50 push-ups because you didn't go to a class today. That's not who we are. I would call ourselves a country club of consulting, meaning we treat you like you have a prestigious membership to something, and everybody's treated like an executive here. And so I will say this, you pick your accountability on the front end of joining us. And there's many layers, and we go over what those layers look like. And every single person chooses their own accountability. And we know, because all of their subscription is stamped with that accountability. So the frequency of how we check in, what we check on, whether you're following the curriculum syllabus, whether you're doing your one-on-ones, is dependent upon your own self-administered desire for accountability. We have people that come here that say, I need you to kick me in the butt because I'm going to get complacent. Yeah. And then we do, and they will, get angry. And so what's funny about this is we have to live with the idea that we've been hired to be that person that makes a person feel uncomfortable. And so sometimes we get the lash back. We let that be said or done. And then we say, okay, do you feel better now? Because this is what you asked us to do. And now let's talk about this. What's making you feel this way or whatever. So
do you believe that accountability is almost equal to commitment? I mean, if you're going to be accountable to something, you're going to commit to something. I believe that in my opinion, I believe that there's a hill to get over. There's something to get there, to get to that complete feeling of commitment and willing to be accountable and then you get over the next step. Does that make
Mhm.
sense to you?
Yeah. Yeah. I think coaching is fickle. I think people think they want it and then they realize what is entailed for work and they don't do it. We have, a small percentage of failure on the student's behalf. Now, I'm not going to take ownership of that failure because we show up to do whatever we need to do with everybody. But we have a small percentage of students that do not get it or do not adhere to the plan, who will quit. And those are tough conversations because, we let anybody go. Anybody can leave at any time. This isn't,
Right.
The mafia. We're not holding people hostage over here.
Right.
What I will tell you is there is a walk to the door that occurs with me if you quit me before you've digested the professional development that you came to do. Because I want those people, and this is going to sound really bold when I say this, but it's the God honest truth. I want the people walking out the door who have done nothing, who haven't done the curriculum, who didn't show up for their one-on-ones, who didn't attend classes, to understand they are not in a position to testimonialize my firm. And so while I'm sorry this didn't work out and you're free to go and I wish you luck, I'm going to give them a last piece of advice on life and future business. And this is where I get that edgy. Believe me, I'm known to have that edge. And I think that's what's made me successful is I am not afraid to look at people. The greatest breakthroughs I've ever seen occur have come from my ability to look a professional square in the face and say, what you're telling me is an excuse or what you're telling me is BS. And I teach from that perspective. When I'm teaching sales, I will list on the first slide, like everything they're making excuses about. So, it's just the language for us starts from the day one. And we say, this isn't going to be easy. We aren't anxious to put people in seats over here unless you want to be in a seat. That's the number one. If somebody calls me and says, convince me to come here, that's a call that I will be very, point blank to say, that's not what I do. I never try to convince people to do coaching or consulting because we do what we do. And I'll tell you what we do. And you can decide if it's for you. Right. But the commitment 1000% has to come from your side, not from me convincing you.
Right, because you're already there. I mean, you're there to do. Look, you've got the reputation and the experience where the commitment's already there, right?
Yep.
And the commitment, I find that a lot of times it's difficult to see and to explain what it really is as far as commitment. There's a book, I forget the name, the author, but it's called The 4 C's, and it's all about commitment to courage, to capacity, to confidence, right?
Yeah.
And it's extremely important to start with the commitment. It's like, every day, everyone I believe should start with this or end the day with the same question. Have I achieved my commitments for the day? Right? What didn't get me there if I didn't? And what am I going to do differently tomorrow? I think that's a great cycle to go through. And that's one of the things for me that I've got to have in order to really allow me to help someone as well as I can. I mean, I can help. We both can help anyone. It's just a matter, do they want to help themselves? Would you agree with that?
That's it. Yeah, I see people that I talk out of coming on every single week. And because it does my firm no good when people are on the fence about something. And I think it surprises them. This is more a place to come to be a pro athlete than anything. And you're going to join pro athletes here. And so, it is a culture threat if I allow wishy-washy people to come into my organization. What's the people that are here are committed. And so we have a great percentage. I would tell you we are defying, and this was true for my career. I had very low turnover. In fact, when I was at H&R Block Mortgage, out of 210 branch managers, when I was one of the branch managers, I had the highest sales and the lowest turnover, which is a hard combination because a lot of times when you're driving people really hard, people are quitting, they're breaking. And so they interviewed me. I remember getting a call back then, and this was before I got some of my promotions that led all the way to senior vice presidency. They were like, how on earth are you getting what you're getting, top performance? And you're, and I've written about it in Wise Eyes, but it's a system of things. It's recognition. I will push you hard and you'll get mad at me, but I will also be the person when you cross that finish line, and I am there to, chest bump you, high five you. I do not miss a milestone. We have hundreds of people that are certifying in education every single week at my firm. And I have a staff of people waiting there to hand them the diplomas and celebrate those. And I get copied on those emails. It's hundreds of emails. And I would love to not be on hundreds of emails, but I don't think there is anything more important than me showing them that this is exactly the champions that I'm trying to turn out. Those are exactly the people that you want exemplifying what you do. So, you know, it is a commitment, and it's about commitment. I have a reputation of having a big heart, but I also have a reputation of being tough.
Right.
I didn't know that actually till I started hearing other people get interviewed regarding me.
Lots of names too.
And so I'll own it because I think it's for the right reasons. And yeah, you know, I'm honored to be your partner if you want me to be your partner, you know.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why I made the turn that I did, simply because, well, there are a lot of other reasons I sold my brokerage. But, you know, the thing is that a lot of times owning a real estate company, a real estate brokerage is difficult to actually have or get accountability, because, I mean, look, you know, in the old business model, which I believe is broken as well, and when it comes to real estate brokerages, you know, a lot of brokers lived in fear, you know, of the agent leaving. You can watch your money walk out the door anytime. And I suppose of small mortgage companies, et cetera, that's the same feeling, you know. So, you know, now it's like, okay, so if you're going to do this, you're going to do it this way. You're going to do it right. And if you don't come ready, don't come at all. Right.
Right.
So we had a question from one of our listeners, from Kyle Vasquez. Do you apply persona assessments to any facet of the business?
Yeah, so personality indexing for us is not a requirement because we're not hiring people for employment. I love Kyle personality assessments, and hello and thanks for the question. I, for many years at H&R Block, did do personality indexing for all positions, so hundreds of employees. And I've taken so many of these type of assessments myself, and been parts of boards even that do these. I participated in MAPS, which does personality indexing as well. And so, you know, we're looking for people through interviews here for consulting that have a high C, meaning that, you know, they're impatient for results because it's a driver to success. We know that if you have a lot of patience, a lot of times you're probably more well suited in a management or operational position than sales, because sales is just that fast-paced deadline drawing type of thing. So yeah, I've seen success from people that were not the likely personality, I guess, to have success. And I think all people, no matter how you're wired, can achieve success. It really comes down to defining what that looks like, by the way. I have a lot of millionaires that are in our field, top producers. Their problem is not production. They do not need me to spend 1 minute with them talking about sales. They need to right-size their life, scale themselves out of their businesses, keep the profit, balance their life. And it is not easy. That some people live in that, you know, drowning in that area for years before they can figure out the scalability. And that often comes down to the belief that they can hand things off and delegate things. And there's some blocks there that they need to, and processes that they need to put in place and overcome. Exactly.
You know, Kyle is a really hardworking real estate agent here in Hudson County, New Jersey. And, you know, he's got the drive, and he is a pusher, and he just absorbs information.
Love it.
He's a great follower of the broadcast and a really, really good human being. And his objective really is just to help people as well. When we've been going on and on about you and everything else, how do people get in touch with you, and how do people get involved with you in order to actually, you know, experience it?
Yeah. So we have a lot of different ways people can be in our community. I'll start with all of the social media avenues. We host 2 Facebook groups. One is the name of my company, 20/20 Vision for Success Coaching. Please ask to join. We will accept all memberships. We, have a great community over there that are sharing great content and ideas, and just a wonderful, positive community. We also have a Women with Vision Facebook group. We have the fastest growing women's business school in America and the American banking industry. We have a national award that we give out every year. We have a magazine as well. So let me also share our free subscriptions to our magazines that have tons of personal development content in it. I promise you, no spamming either. We are not doing our magazines for that. We really want to put out content that makes you want to follow us. So one magazine, they alternate every other month. One's called The Vision, and it's a mortgage pro and real estate pro magazine. And that is thevisionmag.com, easy. And the Women with Vision one, which we welcome men and women to watch, read, is about all the top women in banking. And that one is www.mag.com. And we're on every other social media. LinkedIn, I'm Christine Beckwith. You have to follow me because we're maxed out from connections. Instagram is 2020 Vision. So lots of places. And then if you want to learn about what we do, I would send you to my website, which is visionyoursuccess.net, and you can check out the many things that we're doing.
Well, that's great. I want to thank you so much for coming on today. We want to bring value to the real estate community, and you're definitely in the real estate community, having an awful lot to do with, our livelihood, having to do with mortgages, but also helping people. I mean, you asked real estate agents, why did you get into the business? And I'm going to tell you that I think you would agree with this. And most people say, I want to help people, right? Or I like to see their faces when you give them the keys at the table, right? And that kind of thing. But I'm extremely positive that that's what you're in this business for. And I think that's why you were always in this business and always strive to do better so you could do absolutely more, right? So, but I end this with 2 things. One is, how can I help you grow your business?
Yeah, just having me on is a great thing. I'm really picky now about where I go and do shows. And so I knew your following, and I just, loved your brand. I was a real estate educator as part of my executive leadership for the prior 12 years. I was fronting a platform for my prior company called Annie Mac Works. I don't mind saying it out loud, for Annie Mac Home Mortgage, because New Jersey is the home corporate office of that company. And I was in New Jersey everywhere with every brand. And if you're listening out there, you guys know me, regional directors at Keller Williams, regional directors at Exit Real Estate. I was on the road with these guys and speaking at their conferences for years and years. So, I buy my books. I would love for everybody to take the hard work I've done behind the scenes. Besides Wise Eyes, See Your Way to Success, I wrote a book, Clear Boundaries, based on my perception of what women need to do to create safety for themselves, because I had 2 girlfriends that were murdered. One when I was 18 in my first banking job, and then one on December 30th, 2017 at Annie Mac. When she went home that evening, our chief compliance officer, Colleen Brownell from Collingswood, New Jersey, in a double homicide. And that book was on Good Morning America, I'm really proud to say. My 3rd book was Breaking the Cycle. And I talk about the psychology of my life and making my way from my childhood with a fellow little girl that was living on my street, also very poor. And we wrote this book, Breaking the Cycle, and how she is one of the top doctors in America. She wrote the American Nurse Practitioner's Guide. And for us to find our way from where we were to where we are, and we lecture together, gives a lot of hope to men and women about the journey you can go on to really redefine who you are and what you're set out to do. And then finally, last year, I did a cumulative book with 15 of the most iconic women in the mortgage industry called Win or Learn, The Naked Truth, and where we're leaving a legacy book behind for up-and-coming professionals on our greatest tips that we learned in our career. So anyways.
That's great. As we get ready to finish up, I do want to bring out one special person that's always with me and doing whatever we need to do is say Kupile, and here he is.
What's up, guys?
We
Hey,
just got to say,
let me
I was trying to bring
guys
you
ahead
up
of
real
time.
quick. I apologize.
No,
I did
that's
not
all right.
see your note.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I just want to apologize ahead of time. It's noisy over here. We've got construction going on in the bathroom. I've got kids in class, all in the dining room and living room and the den
Not
and
at
things
all.
like that. So we are juggling. Christine, first of all week I've been talking to Dave about the importance of you being on here and the importance of sort of transcending the boundaries that others perceive us to have. When I say us, normally disenfranchised communities,
Sure.
the women and people of color and things like
Yep.
that. I don't have my light on, so you can't really tell I'm a black guy, right? So
Love it.
one of the things that I wrestle with as a coach, and I know that Dave wrestles with this as a coach, and I was watching from the background, is quite often the community that's transcending, the community that's going and breaking through boundaries and breaking through ceilings, et cetera,
Yeah.
often suffers from the imposter syndrome.
Yes.
I wonder if you could talk for a few minutes about whether or not you felt this way, whether or not the people that you work with feel this way. And I'm going to mute because they're banging.
Yeah. Well, first of all, nice to meet you, and thank you so much. I love what you just said, and I love that you affiliate yourself, with me as well, with me saying I'm a minority, because it's funny. I opened in Chicago the National Association of Minority Bankers in America conference as the keynote 2 years ago. And the first words out of my mouth is, what does a white woman have to do with minority? Because I knew everybody in the audience was of a minority ethnic race. And I was staring at it to see these people thinking they must, why did they pick me as the keynote? And I quickly unearthed, growing up poor as well as living in a minority setting my whole career. And they could relate to me. So thank you, for saying that. I appreciate that. That really makes me happy. We actually have people that come and speak monthly on the imposter syndrome topic. We just held a webinar 2 Wednesdays ago on this topic, and we received the most, emails we've ever received from this topic, because this topic is so profoundly needed. I would tell listeners this. Imposter syndrome, it does not prejudice. It is in all of us as human beings, white, ethnic. I think because we, minorities that face discrimination. And I know, in Win or Learn, my chapter opens up and it's called Call Me Crazy. And it says, that subtle thing that makes you feel like something made you feel like something was done wrong to you, but you can't prove it, right? And it's really subtle, but it's been done. And I talk in my chapter about that feeling we all have and how we rise up to pick our battles without looking like the drama, defensive, and that's why the chapter is like, Call Me Crazy, meaning I'll own you calling me crazy, because here's what I'm going to tell all professionals. Don't go fighting and go into conflict and walk around angry, of course. But if someone brings something to you, step up to it, because I am not afraid. If you bring me a fight, I will step up to that fight and I will stand and deal. And I know that our greatest accomplishments in life come from overcoming through the conflict. You have to go through it. We avoid awkward conversations and we avoid sometimes the tough stuff because we think, a more polished person wouldn't say this, a more politically correct. Let me tell you the damage. I could spend another hour here telling you the damage PC has done to our world. We need no more. We need no more PC. We need to be real, guys. And when things come to you, so I say this, lean into your fears. Lean into those voices in your head that tell you you're not worthy. If I go back to 8 years old, I had that voice so loud. And I'm grateful to God that one other human, stood up and said, you are worthy. You are capable. And you can do this. And then made that path for me available. And I've been paying that forward since I was 8 years old.
That's amazing.
Anyways, I know we're over time, but
yeah, no, it's okay. But the imposter syndrome is something that Sekou and I talk about a lot. Sekou and I, we work side by side. We coach agents all the time together and separately. I consider him my coach, and he considers me his coach. I don't know why, but that's an imposter syndrome thing I got to deal with. Yeah. But because he's amazing. And Sekou, thanks for coming on. I know it's just tight with time and stuff.
Thanks, I love you guys. I'm out of here. It's nuts over here.
Okay, good luck with your noise.
Thank you, Sekou. So it's just, I wanted to bring him on because awesome. We support each other 100%. Yeah. And we don't, honestly, the thing is, when we have sessions together, it's more catching up than anything else. And we have to schedule our time once a week together.
I'm coaching, I get coached, I get counseled, and us coaches here at 2020, it's like hairdressers doing each other's hair. We legitimately trade hours, of coaching because we're like, I need someone to talk to. Can I talk to you about something? Because we know that we have blind spots, and we know sometimes it's in the saying and talking that the therapy really comes. But anyways, I know we got to wrap up.
Yeah, I want to thank you for coming on. Just stay on for one more second as we go up. I know why you came on. You saw everybody that's come on, even though they're hits in their field. You wanted the hat. So the hat's coming out to you. Christine Beckwith, thank you so much. Next week, everybody, we have Michelle Pius coming on. She returns to the broadcast, and we'll see her next week. Christine, thank you so much. We're going to go out in style here. And here if I can find it, there it is. Thanks a lot, Christine.
Thank you.